Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be reviewing Saint Maude. Out. If you are hearing this, it is out now in theaters and on demand. It is a very refreshing, light, fun film that we're going to talk about here tonight. Joining me first up, the Queen is back, y'all. Visiting us here this week. Please welcome Cece.
It's so effusive. Thank you.
Next up on the show from Virginia, please welcome Caitlin.
What part?
Richmond.
Thank you.
The most incredible city on earth.
That's right.
It's like I picture it like when we reviewed Babes in Toyland on your show there, and like they sing a song about how amazing Cincinnati is. That's what I picture Richmond being like. People just like hike around and they're like, all right,
that's fully me.
Next up on the show from a place no one sings about, he's the business manager at bloodygoodhorror.com. He's coming to us from Maryland. Please welcome John Schnars to the show.
Eric, today, this is, I think, our first majority south of the Mason-Dixon line show.
Oh, God, Joe.
I was just thinking about this.
There's got to be songs about Maryland, right? Like someone.
Yeah.
What is it? Is it?
There's a Baltimore song.
You know how every
there's a Tori Amos song called Baltimore.
You know
Streets of Baltimore.
You know how every state is like this state? Like, what is Maryland? Is it like the crab state or something?
What is the name?
The pass-through state, I believe, is what it's called. Right?
Shit, I'm gonna have to look this up. I'm embarrassed. I don't know.
The at least we're not Delaware state.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Interesting.
You Google songs about Maryland, you get a lot of songs tagged to songs of the Confederate States of America, John.
Oh,
so
cool.
It says the Free State. Maryland is also called Old Line State and Free State.
That's stupid. That doesn't mean anything.
Creative. Yeah.
Look.
What is Old Line State? Just the Mason-Dixon line?
I am reading you Maryland facts from visitmaryland.org. No, it refers to
they put that on their tourism site?
Yeah, it refers to the Revolutionary War.
Good God.
Yeah, man. Okay, cool. Anyway, last up tonight from the Windy City. I don't know what state Illinois is, Joe. You have to fill me in. Please welcome Joe to the show.
You don't know what state
No,
Illinois
I mean, like,
is?
what I'm saying is it the what state? Like the corn state or something? Like,
I don't know. That's a good question too. I mean, I know.
Joe, no excuse. You've lived there. The land of Lincoln.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It's on our license plates, I believe.
The Prairie State. It is also called.
Okay,
apparently.
I could get. I see. That's that I get because it's like a feature of the state. It's not just like a line, like the line. I don't know what that is.
Free State.
So, you know.
Unlike the rest of you, you know.
I think the free state means nobody wanted this piece of shit state, so they just gave it to us for free. Like when we bought it, like that's how it became part of America.
Like when the Civil War was ending, they were like,
just fucking take Maryland. We don't care.
Well, you can take back Maryland. Is that cool? Like, are we fine?
Halvesies?
No?
Halvesies
Right,
on Maryland? No? Okay, just keep it. I don't
Guys,
care.
like, just to be clear, like I don't want to be living in Maryland. We're all on the same side here.
Listen, John, it's a pandemic. The material I have is thin. I'm just working with what I have here. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm inclined to defend. I
It is a very nice state.
DC, Maryland, Virginia,
John,
DMV.
Yeah,
all one
DMV.
thing.
That's true. You know,
Yes.
respect. We got to stick together here, Caitlin.
John,
It's
we're all
like
just
The
making
Mid-Atlantic, if you will.
We're all just making it through what we have here, Schnars. Okay, please.
Eric, speaking of making it through with what we have, did you see your old buddy Tom Brady today?
Hammered off his ass. Yeah.
Woo!
Here's the funny thing about Tom Brady.
How do Boston people feel about it? Like, what is the general vibe? I guess you're not seeing
I think
other people,
largely people are like still kind of obsessed with him. Like I think he won most of the people of Boston in that feud, and not like Belichick, which is
because he's not there, but he's still racist. So they're still like cool,
right?
Right? Like,
Well, I was explaining because it occurred to me that I'm not sure people outside of New England really know this, but like the whole reason that blew up is because of Brady's quack doctor, that he wanted basically to have full access to the team, and Belichick was like, no, bro, sorry. And that's what happened. So like part of the reason why he went with Tampa is because they basically just gave him
Bruce
carte
Arians was
blanche
like,
to do whatever he wanted. Yeah.
bring your quack doctor.
And if you've
to
ever heard
town.
like an interview with him, he is an idiot. Like he's straight up is a dum dum. Like it's the only way I could describe it. When he starts talking, it's like he's trying to sound smart, but he's not.
He's a genius at football.
Yeah.
He's just very good at one thing. So
Anyway, I could go on, but no one's listening to this podcast.
I
gives a
just
shit.
no, but I just enjoyed how drunk he was.
Yeah,
at that
no, it's
part.
real funny.
It was really
Yeah.
nice.
It was good. It's weird to see that from a person who once said in an interview that occasionally he eats a banana as a treat.
No, he and his wife split a strawberry, I think.
Yeah,
is what it
because he
was.
eats no sugar, like not even like natural like fruit sugar. So
It's
a whole
very
thing.
upsetting.
Maybe it was just like straight grain alcohol. Like I don't know.
Well,
Lots of
dude,
ways
if
you
you
can
listen,
keep your
I can
sugar low.
attest that if you live a lifestyle like that, one drink is going to pretty much send you to where he went in that video. So, all right, Joe. Speaking of drinks, please tell us what we are drinking tonight.
Beer guts.
Saint Maude. Right on Maude. Have any of you ever watched the show Maude with B. Arthur?
Yeah.
I had the theme song stuck in my head during this entire movie. Anyway, Saint Maude, heartwarming tale about a woman with a, I don't know, like borderline, like overbearing crush on our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, much like Tom Brady probably.
Mhm.
And in honor of her love for the big guy upstairs, I picked a beer from the good folks at Beer Church Brewing. That's in New Buffalo, Michigan. The beer I picked of theirs is their Pontius Pilate New England IPA. Yeah, like it works all
Are
around.
these guys
John.
actually? Are these guys religious, or is this like a funny haha kind of thing?
No, so it's actually they. This is the second brewery we've been to. One in Pittsburgh has the same thing, but they put the brewery in an old church, so they kind of gutted the insides and put everything. So all their beers have a churchly sort of theme about them, but not a lot of like religious things going on there. And after the wife and I spent an afternoon there tipping back a few, there wasn't much,
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
let
Joe,
the
actually,
imagination fill in the rest.
Joe, you're married, so that was all like legit
Oh,
in the eyes of
100%.
God there. So
there was some Lord's name being screamed out later, John, if you know what I mean.
unlike the lady you met on AOL that fateful day in the early 2000s.
It was a different time. So anyway, Pontius Pilate. I mean, I've done a ton of New England IPAs before. I don't need to really get into it, but this one, much like everyone, very drinkable, very sort of upfront with the hops, but not like overpowering. I was a huge fan of this and everything else that they had on tap there. So I definitely recommend you checking them out if you're in the area. Comes in at about 6.2% alcohol, so not super high, but enough to get the juices flowing, if you know what I mean, John. Spark your carnal desires.
I'm gonna need you to be a little more specific.
A little bit of the old anyway, beerchurchbrewing.com is their website, and yeah, everything. So I don't think they actually can, or you can get these outside. So you got to make the trip to Michigan and enjoy this place because the food was amazing. Their beers were great, and I wholeheartedly recommend everything that they're doing. So yeah, there you go.
Is it like a nice church, like one of the big ceiling? They got the ceiling situation, or
We went over the
Ceiling-
summer,
I mean,
and
don't most churches have ceiling?
you knew what I
A
meant.
cathedral?
we went during the summer, and obviously there's a pandemic, so we didn't bother going inside. We just ate outside, so we didn't get to see. It looked nice, looked like a lot of fun. So, maybe someday I can report back to you, John.
All right, appreciate.
I feel like I had a Belgian beer once, Joe, that I was told was at least originally brewed by monks, but I can't remember what that was.
A lot of the Belgian beers have sort of a Trappist monk history to them.
Right.
There's a lot of breweries over in Belgium that still do just have monks brewing their beers. They're supposed to be
kinda
amazing, but you
kinda
kind of
love
got to go
that,
there.
yeah. All right, thank you for that, Joe. How many beers
Thank
have you recommended on the show, Joe? Do you have an idea?
Oh, you know what? I'd have to pull up the list, but I mean, we started. I remember my first one was the Black Waters of Echo Pond
Wow,
or
so
Lake,
long ago,
like
bro.
yeah,
Makes me
years
feel
ago. So back on
old.
episode. Oh wow, this is episode 116 was the first time I did a beer.
Damn,
Yeah.
we were just little babies.
I was roughly the same size, actually.
Yeah. As you can see in the drawings that I'm currently emailing.
Yes.
Our
Waiting
picture.
for these.
Oh boy. All right, guys, it is time. Let's take a quick break so that we can talk about Saint Maud.
Where yours ends, mine bends, John.
Oh no.
Hey Joe, what you just said is going to get cut out of the final version of the show because it was over the bumper. Do you want to repeat it?
I just told John where his ends, mine bends.
Got it.
Which I think I've brought up on the show before.
I have heard that before, and that's why I'm positive I heard it from you.
Mhm.
I learned it from watching you, Joe. All right, Schnars. How are you?
Yeah.
How are you? Check in with me here, man. How you doing?
Pretty good. I
you
feel
look-
like we're a little punchy. A little
look-
punchy
you
tonight.
look-
I don't know.
You look a little
It's
tired.
good. It feels good.
You look tired. Are you doing okay?
I actually feel pretty good. Slept okay.
Okay.
That's like as good as I can ask for these days. So
I'll take it. Now, there's been a little fracas brewing off air here where Kaylin has done an end around and looked up her own word, presumably because she didn't trust you to get a good enough one for this movie. Actually, no. Do you want to know what happened? I went to Slack today and I saw a DM, and the DM said, "Hey, I actually thought of a really cool word. Like, what should I do with it?" I didn't know you were on this thread, straight up, and I replied, "You should just wait and show John up with it on the show." And then John replied, and I was like, "LOL. Hi, John. How's it going?"
that makes sense.
Yeah.
The thing is, it was the only pseudo-intelligent thing I had to say, so I didn't want to, I didn't want to cash it all in right away and give it to John.
Right.
No. And I said, look, like, God bless. Like, but that was like it was like a warning. It was like a threat, So I felt like I had to.
It was gonna be collaborative, and then I was like, oh no, I can't give it all away up front.
Listen,
That's,
John. Competition breeds innovation. I think that's capitalism or some shit. All right, let's do it then. John, you give yours first, and then we'll let Caitlin give hers. So please bring us the word of the day.
Eric, today's word, afflatus.
Mm.
Oh.
God damn it!
Is it the same word? 'Cause it's
Wait,
the same
get
word.
out.
I was like, holy shit.
No, I'm just
Wow.
prepared to lose gracefully.
So I did not know this word. I actually read this word in an unrelated article, had nothing to do with the movie, and looked it up because I was like, what the fuck is this word? And then I was like, wow, this actually relates to the movie we're talking about. So afflatus means a divine creative impulse or inspiration.
Joe.
That's it. That's the whole definition. It comes to us from the Latin. Ad means to, and flare means to blow. It's literally like a divine breath.
We're all thinking the same thing, right?
Bending and ending is what we're all thinking.
It probably does have a similar.
Oh my god! You know what I love? Like,
etymology, Joe.
there are maybe two people. There are no two people on the show less alike than Joe and I, and yet there are moments when him and I share the most subtle of look, and it is like we are telepathy communicating with each
Yeah.
other.
Well, there was a girl in our high school who was supposed to be a flatist, but I mean, she wouldn't go near my fucking Metallica t-shirt wearing ass.
Oh god!
Yeah, it's apparently afflatus comes to us all the way from Cicero. That was according to Wikipedia.
Italians, I get it.
If you pay enough. I've heard they mostly come from Russia, John.
Right. John, you could have used desquamation this week. There was a bunch of desquamming happening in this movie.
Whew, boy, howdy.
Real gross. All right, all right there, Caitlin from Richmond. What do you got?
Well, I don't read articles like John does, so I'm prepared to bow out. But the word that I had was chiaroscuro, which I
What?
bet CC
I've heard that. I've
is
heard
in
that.
on that.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Chiaroscuro is an Italian word, and we usually use it in reference to art criticism and art history. It refers to the use of light and dark within a painting. So a lot of like Caravaggio's paintings are super dark, and then the subject is illuminated with like sort of very
Yes.
specific angles of light, and that's very much how Saint Maud was shot.
Yeah,
So,
there are a lot of frames in this movie that just straight up look like Renaissance paintings.
yeah.
It's very cool.
So
All right,
I
well,
tried.
both of you did a
Nice.
wonderful job.
Congrats.
You guys
Very-
both
yeah,
get pats on the
solid
back
word
tonight.
effort. I'll give you that one.
All right, John, tell me about Saint Maud.
Hi, Saint Maud. What is there to say? Saint Maud. So this is listed as a 2019 British film. It was you guys probably saw it, but sort of backed by the the British Film BFB. I don't know. They're like they use the lottery over there to help fund independent cinema, and this was one of those movies. It was distributed in the U.S. by A24, and we can probably get into that a little bit. But it comes to us from the director Rose Glass. So this is her. She's a first-time feature director. It had its world premiere at Toronto in 2019, and was, I think, one of the bigger sort of films there, and had a lot of buzz around it. Probably would have been it was an A24 release last year that kind of got shelved, and here we are. It did get a theatrical here, but a little rough. So this tells I would say a fairly simple story in a lot of ways. This woman's name I'm going to pronounce Morfid.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct? Okay, good. I'm getting
It's
Morfid
Mighty
Clark.
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, I think, is what it is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
She so she's the main character, and when we meet her, she's going by Maude. She's acting as an at-home nurse, basically through like a private agency, and she's been sent to care for this woman who was a choreographer who is effectively terminal. I mean, she's like a hospice nurse, and this woman is dying of cancer and sort of, in sort of the terminal stages. So she's there. We sort of hear in voiceover her effectively like prayers, or I guess she's speaking to God, and it acts as voiceover, but it kind of explains a little bit of her inner monologue, her relationship to our Lord and Savior, as Joe mentioned.
Mhm.
And we see this
One
relationship.
true.
Yeah, we see this relationship that she has with this woman she's caring for, Amanda, sort of begin to develop and flower. And pretty early on, she decides she has to save Amanda, save her soul. And so that sort of is the first half of the film, is their relationship and her attempt to save her soul. And there's a confrontation whereby she has to leave because they sort of like come to, I mean, literal blows actually. And so Maude is now out, and it's at this point that it's like right around the same point where we realize her name's not really Maude. Her name's Katie. She runs into an ex-coworker from a hospital that she had worked at. And we had seen a flashback. It might have even been the first scene in the film of her in this hospital kind of experiencing a traumatic loss of a patient, or it's never super clearly explained. And we start to get this like fuller picture of a woman who's dealing with, some trauma, potentially, certainly, stress-induced mental health issues. And so we get it becomes this portrait of a woman who's supremely devout. We learn that she's been converted relatively recently, but all of that has sort of come to pass, along with this changing of her name and her job, in the context of this kind of extreme or traumatic event that she had. And so the rest of the movie is basically just an unwinding or an unraveling, again, in the context of her sort of religious conversion. And it goes to some dark places.
Yep, sure does. All right, Cece, welcome back. What'd you think?
I'm just trying to think even where to start. So, I mean, in typical A24 fashion, I would have to say that I really liked this movie. I don't know how many times I'll revisit this movie, but I really appreciated. I believe it's Rose Glass's. She was also the writer too, right? So she's the writer director. I really liked the kind of ambiguity we get in her. This like deconstruction of whether or not we see Katie / Maude having a mental breakdown or if she's really having this like religious moment. And I know I kind of talked about it in an email, but I really appreciated in an interview I read with the director that that's kind of the approach she took with making this movie, is that she didn't want to have, you know, a typical like religious horror film. She wanted to try and like do something different. I do think there's parts that like were a little too slow for me, but overall, I mean, it's a very visceral and like physically exhausting film to watch. And I think that the main actress did phenomenally as this, like, you know, you want to feel bad for her and you want to like empathize with her, but then at the same time you're like, I want to be as far away from this person as possible.
I feel you, because this movie is a little slow, but also when my kids were your kids' age, like no movie was short enough or felt like fast-paced enough.
It's not that I mean, it didn't feel like a very long movie,
no, for sure.
but it was just like the parts that I know were building. I was like, okay, I know
you're trying to like, where are we going here?
Yeah, I'm like, let's hurry up and get there.
No, it's yeah, for sure. All right, Caitlin, what'd you think?
This was the A24iest movie that has ever A24, and it's very, very much in line with, you know, Black Coat's Daughter and, you know, Midsummer, Hereditary, The Witch, all of that. There were actually a lot of shots where, and none of these are spoilery, so I'll go ahead and share them, but when she's talking to God in one scene is very reminiscent of the scene in The Witch where Thomasin is talking to Black Phillip. There's a lot of inverted shots, which we also see in Midsummer. The score was super similar to Hereditary. It was just like a convergence of all that dark shit that A24 loves into one supremely dark story. But I really liked it because I tend to really like that kind of stuff. It was really brutal to watch this poor girl, though. I mean, she was struggling to find some sense of connection or community or belonging, and she wasn't finding it anywhere. We get sort of tastes of her past life, and she wasn't finding any connection there. She's really struggling with her connection to God at certain points, and she herself is just terrifying. I really found her compelling to watch. And
well, which is interesting because she's the main character you spend the most time with.
Yeah, well, and there aren't a whole lot of characters in general, and I feel like when movies have a small ensemble like that, you really have to have solid performances, and through and through they were really good and effective, because I was, like Cece said, pretty scared of her. The art direction was cool. We talked a little bit about the lighting. A lot of art sort of references in general. I think we got a lot of William Blake here, very Red Dragon reminiscent. I'd like to talk more once we get to spoilers about the ending. But yeah, it was really, I don't know, feels really desperate, really bleak, really brutal, all the things that one would love about an A24 movie. But yeah, I liked it.
Jojo.
Yeah, I mean, Cece and Caitlin are pretty much spot on, right? And I think Cece said it's exhausting, right? Like,
yeah, for sure.
This movie, I loved the way it looked. Like, it's beautiful, and I thought it was really well done. I will say, and I agree with Cece, like, I don't think I'll ever watch this again. Mostly because there's a lot of like needles, just a lot of needles, a lot of jabbing. It's a very uncomfortable movie, right? And it's, I was talking, Leslie and I watched this together, and she really enjoyed it too. But I was telling her towards the end, like, this is the exact kind of movie that like makes me want to throw up, because I'm just like so nervous the entire time. Because like, we've got this woman and she's unraveling, and you never know what she's gonna do, right? So like, there's no moment of this where you can just like sit at ease and be comfortable, right? You're like, a traditional horror movie, you've got like a slasher, and like if they're in this certain setting, you know, okay, he or she's not there, and I can relax. Whereas this, you just don't know when she's going to do something, right? So we've got these scenes where she's interacting with other people. She interacts with like one of the new nurses by the beach, and like you don't know if she's going to snap and do something there. So it's just, you're constantly on edge, and it's only an hour and 24, but like by the end, like I was just freaking spent.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I agree with everything Caitlin and Cece said. Like, I really enjoy this. I don't think like mentally I could ever go back and take this again.
John.
Yeah, I agree with everyone else. I think really like this movie. Like I don't know that I would watch it again, but I will definitely recommend it to people. You know, people that are into, you know, super super depressing shit.
The
I
other
guess.
parents at daycare.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Like
be
when
real with
I,
you guys.
know,
Like this movie's depressing, but Schnars, you personally have made me watch some
Yeah.
way more depressing movies than last year. I
Yeah,
didn't.
no, I mean,
No,
This was
true.
pretty low on the
So-
bar for me, if I'm being honest.
well, and so
This
I'll,
was like
I'll
a walk
maybe
in the
repeat
park.
Some, I'll repeat some things that other people said, but maybe try to add a spin. But I think Cece, you mentioned that the sort of way that this movie plays with the idea of whether she's, you know, genuinely going insane or having a legitimate divine
Mm-hmm.
sort of interaction is probably the most interesting part of this. And I think what's interesting, and this movie does it in a more, it felt like more realistic, which is like weird to say, and like honest. You know, I think Cece, I think you might have mentioned over email that it's reminiscent or it's exploring territory around like other female saints. I'd love to like understand a little. I mean, the context that I was watching this in, and this is like somewhat of an aside, but I just finished reading the Michael Pollan book about taking psychedelics, and that book, like one of the main takeaways of that book is like, you know, psychedelics are used in religious experiences and like people like across the board, you take psychedelics, you come out and you're like, oh, I had this divine experience. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
he's like really he's trying to like dig into like what is a divine experience. And so like this movie at least puts forward a different vision. I mean, I think it's fair to say she's like mentally disturbed, but like what she is personally herself experiencing is a divine experience. So all that is to say, that to me was like super well done. And just like, I don't want to say it's not like entirely unique. Like it's not like we've never seen anything like this, but it was handled in a very kind of fresh way in my mind, which made this like super worth watching, even while it was like really grim.
Yeah, I
So-
agree. It's super well made. I just visually a really stunning movie, even though it's like it doesn't have like a really varied color palette or anything. There's actually a lot of muted colors. Like I really love the set design on the sick woman's house. I can't remember her name because I don't remember
Amanda.
anyone's name. Amanda. But like it's like all the walls are painted this like almost pre-war like dark green or something. And
Excellent wallpaper
like
choices.
yeah, like the house itself feels out of time. Like literally in the first 5 minutes, I'm like, what time period is this in? And then she mentions a cell phone, and I'm kind of like, oh, okay. Like I had to orient myself. But there are a lot of story parallels to the movie May here for me, where you have like a young woman sort of on the outskirts of society, struggling with mental health, who is out and outcast and sort of feels other from people. And in particular, because there's moments in this movie where she's almost trying to re-enter society. Like, and that's kind of what I felt about this middle part where she goes back to the bar. Like, she's sort of disappointed by where this his religious experience had gone, and it felt to me like almost a ditch effort to try to like be normal again or something. Which obviously, as we saw, doesn't go very well. But it's very similar to May, which is a favorite of mine. But where the tension comes from, on like just a horror movie level, is that we know she's gonna snap, but we don't know how. And the movie continues to put her in tense situations with other people, ratcheting it up slowly. And to Cece's point, at some point you're just waiting for it, and that's where they're playing the tension in the whole movie. Like, I straight up thought this woman in the park was gonna get stabbed in the eye, like this other nurse.
Yeah.
But that scene to me weirdly kind of sticks out more than any other scene. I love this woman's performance, and she's so genuine, where she's just talking about the reasons why she loves being a nurse, and it's like some real human shit. And this woman is just this main character is looking at her like she wants to gouge her eyes out, and it's so funny. Like, it's where you realize how much of a real disconnect there is with her humanity, or like with her ability to like connect to other human beings in some way. The ending is fantastic. There's one particular shot when I mentioned the Renaissance painting thing where she is at her window and the sun is coming in the window, and the way it's shot, her entire body is dark and all you see is her face looking up at the window. And that was CC, I mean, you're obviously like trained in art history, so I'm sure you saw other things, but that was the one to me that was like so obvious. Like, it just jumped right out at me. I would like to have a discussion as to whether or not at one point she was talking to a cockroach. Because I couldn't tell if that's what was being inferred to me, because you see the cockroach right before she's talking to like, or whatever. But yeah, and I agree with John too. it's just the debate about the validity of religious experiences, and whatever shit you're bringing from your own life is where you're going to come down on this. But to even say like because you could start by saying back in history this person may have been looked at as a medium or a saint or something, and you could now look at her and say people would call her mentally ill now. Well, like, you're not even making a qualitative judgment at that point. Like, it's really, what do you believe? Like, and I don't know. It's super interesting to me. Like, I know what I believe, but I could also see it both ways. And what I like about the movie is it's very, like you guys said, it's very intentionally leaving a good amount of it kind of open to interpretation. Even to me, even at the end, like, even though,
yeah, I think the
Well-
point is like her experience. You can't, like, whatever she's experienced, like we're being presented with it. You just have to like accept that
Yeah.
that's what she
Right.
experienced.
right.
Well, and not to like, get too far into the like religious aspect of it unless y'all really want to, but it's really
yes.
it's I think that was one of my favorite parts, and I'm with you, John. Like the movie itself is very ambiguous. There we go. So like it doesn't really matter, like we're saying, what the actual events that are happening, like if they're real or not. It's about what she's experiencing. And there's like going back into the like medieval times, saints. Well, there's a whole belief that has deep roots in Christianity and then into like Roman Catholicism, that to fully experience God, like it's not only the word of God but also like the body of God. So like there's this whole like spirituality has to also be physical. So there's a desire for that ecstasy in a lot of especially female saints, and that's kind of like part of like being a nun and like saving yourself for Christ, is that you're not experiencing a pleasure of the flesh, it's a pleasure of like spirituality. So one saint in particular, Saint Teresa, had like super intense like moments of ecstasy in which she claimed that's how she was experiencing God and experiencing the word of God. So it's really cool that the writer director built this whole experience for this character in something that has happened before. And when you put it in today's context, you're like, you immediately want to think that this woman has mental issues, this woman is way beyond normal help, and that what she's experiencing couldn't even be real. Like even I at first didn't really like the imagery that we see, like at one point she sees like wings on herself, like you think she's hallucinating. And at the same time, it's like, that's really cheesy, but also like if you were experiencing wings on yourself, like in this divine moment, like how do you know that's not what you would see? So I think that's really a really cool play on, the interpretation of events or miraculous events through generations. But also like in Joe's defense, the self-flagellation of her like stepping on pins and like just like, well, and even like laying down popcorn kernels when she's praying, like
Yes.
Yeah.
there's always been a it's not just only in Roman Catholicism, but there's always been a this like desire to interpret the suffering that Christ has suffered. So like in doing these painful acts to yourself, like you're bringing yourself closer to God or closer to your spirituality. So at the same time, like, is she experiencing this on her own, or is she doing it to herself so she can be closer? And then I really think that that's also a great like sub question that we kind of are faced with at the end when we, have this like coup de grace. You're like, well, what, like, is she doing it to herself, or like, how is this like this culmination of events, like what is she getting out of it? So I was definitely having a heyday with that aspect, but I was like,
some of the imagery around, like, especially when we see what she's seeing, is really incredible and kind of reminded me of the hell's that movie I talk about all the time that I like, the one with the lady and the shaved back magic. What was that?
A Dark Song.
Yes, thank you.
Song.
But the like
Yeah.
angel, the like neon
Mhm.
angel wings, that was
Yeah.
such a cool visual. And like done only for a moment, and like
Yeah.
that, like I wanted so much more of it. Like that was really
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah, but if they had carried it like while she's, left the house after that, I don't think it would have been as impactful.
Oh, for sure. I totally agree. And I think that like I think that's why I liked it so much, because it's given you just a glimpse of it enough to be like, do I like that? Do I believe that? And then by the time you like are trying to process it, it's gone, and you're like, well, I mean, that is kind of a miraculous event. Like you're not left with something tangible. So
Yeah.
You don't have it long enough to realize like, oh, this is or isn't really happening, right? Like
Right.
you get a lot of these things where it's just like, oh shit, like maybe she really is like speaking to God,
Yeah.
and it's just like a
I was-
flash and then disappears.
Go ahead, John.
She's the most unreliable narrator. I mean, and the director has made this choice to not even give us a toehold. Like she literally like, we'll give you her perspective. We'll not like you, and you don't even know.
Well, that's
sometimes.
kind of
I mean,
what,
obviously,
to me, that's why the movie feels exhausting, because it's not giving you any kind of cipher. Like there's no character that ever gives you a moment of like safety while you're watching it, and so you're basically like your hackles are up the whole time you're watching it.
well,
Exactly.
I mean, there, sort of mentioned like there really aren't any other characters. I mean, Amanda is the only other character. I thought she was amazing. Like that
Yes.
actress is just like.
Because it's a
Incredible.
layered character. Like there's so much to her.
Well, and it goes to some pretty dark places. Like so, like because I hadn't necessarily connected the like ecstasy CC that you kind of mentioned to we do see her literally experiencing ecstasy. I
in
mean,
one
but
scene,
oh yeah.
it's given like a little bit of a sexual connotation, specifically in relationship to a moment that she has with Amanda
Right.
that feels to her super meaningful, and that's sort of like what I don't know if it's like the first turn or what, but like it kind of does lock her into that mindset of like, okay, now I have to save this woman. Like she's been exposed or kind of had that
Well,
moment.
they bonded,
Yeah.
both physically through ecstasy and spiritually. So yeah.
Well, exactly. Like she feels like, okay, she's also now been revealed, right? Or whatever, whatever you call it. And so, but when that moment then, is sort of undercut later in the film by Amanda, it is like so brutal.
Yeah.
And it's what drives like the power. That last sequence, the last 10 minutes of this movie is just, whew.
It definitely,
Well,
I think it definitely pays off the build up.
I wanted Joe specifically to know that if he was interested in learning more about experiences of religious ecstasy, there is a Tori Amos song called Icicle that he can look into.
I was going
God
to ask
damn it.
Cece to turn around and ask Kyle if he's ever heard the Typo Negative song Christian Woman, because I feel like it's
He's on the
like
phone.
right there. Has anyone else seen Framing Britney Spears? Because there's a lot of similarities between what we're talking about this
Wait, are you
woman
serious? I can't tell.
and
Joe,
Britney
hold on.
Spears
Hold on. Joe
trajectory.
wants to know if you have heard the Typo song "A Christian Woman."
That's good.
He goes, if it's not on October Rust, then no, he hasn't heard it.
That's a shame.
He says that's a shame.
Yes, I
Okay.
understand all these things being said.
Yeah.
My favorite album,
He says he's
October
just
Rust.
a man. He can only do so much.
Yeah.
I actually
Give it a
want to
go.
pick up this the framing Britney or reframe because someone at work was talking about it and like, oh, you got to watch this.
No,
Like,
I
It's
got
very
it in the
good.
queue. Yeah, I need to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It completely threw us off
Are you
topic,
being
but
serious,
it's very,
Joe?
Well, it's funny
can't
because a lot of the things we were talking about at the top of like about this woman's journey very much like co-align with Britney Spears and like kind of the way that she was portrayed to us back in the 90s
Ah.
versus like what really happened. Like,
Joe, are
it
you
really,
trying to say that Britney Spears might be a saint?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
that's what I'm hearing.
like you don't need to watch.
No, I think Joe's like making a really good point
No,
because
I know,
it's
I'm just
really
fucking with him
funny
because
that
he's Joe.
it's really funny that so she's going by Maude, but Katie in her quote unquote old life, like we come to find out that like she would go out all the time and party and kind of like hook up a little more like recklessly.
Yeah. That's
That
interesting.
she so like, but she also the beginning of the movie I believe is asked like who her saint is, and she says her saint is Mary Magdalene, who
Right.
obviously like has the history of being a prostitute and reforming and becoming like the closest to Christ. So like I think it's a really there's a lot of really interesting ways to interpret that, And, I mean, Britney Spears was seen as this like party girl, and
I do.
now we realize she's been
You're giving him a lot. of
prisoner.
No,
credit
I
here.
do get it.
No,
It's-
it's
Listen.
100% what I was thinking, John. All right, you don't have to be a dick about everything.
Cece.
That's what he was thinking.
I'm kidding. I'm
Cece,
kidding.
I agree with what you're saying. What you missed last week was Joe mocking me for 45 minutes for liking Near Dark. So that's where I
Yeah.
am with Joe right
Well,
now.
to be fair, that movie's unwatchable there.
Right. I really liked that there's this like incident alluded to in her past in nursing that I don't think was ever illuminated fully, right? Like, and it leads to like I love this conversation where her old nursing associate or friend or whatever comes to her apartment, which her apartment straight up looks like a fucking crazy person's apartment. And this woman, I feel like this woman was just trying to hold it together and just be supportive, but like I loved all the subtle conversational undertones going on in this scene.
Really?
That was
I
the-
was not endeared at all by that person though. I feel like
I couldn't figure out why she was really there. I'm with
No,
you.
but I just like
well, she's a bad person who wants. I mean, she was so shitty. She was like, "Oh, they hired you. They know what happened."
I just
You're still
as a
working?
scene found like the subtext of their conversation really fascinating.
No, I mean, it was definitely it was necessary to move the plot along and sort of move the story along, but I really couldn't stand the moments with that person because she was just
yeah,
I found her reprehensible.
I don't want to
See,
be.
I
Well,
didn't
but it
realize,
makes
like-
sense, right? But it makes sense for someone like this. Literally, the only person that reaches out to her is a person that isn't even really close to her, or maybe has her
Oh,
best
for
interest at
sure,
heart.
right.
Like, I think that actually makes sense with how isolated the character is.
I don't
Oh,
know,
yeah.
like, because at the end, the woman was like, I'm going to stop by later. Like, and to me, that had some genuine, like, she felt
mean-
bad
I'll
about
be
the
honest
way
with
things
you.
have
I
happened.
read it as like she was going to try to connect and was freaked out by what she saw in that apartment and the state of this
Yeah.
woman. Because don't forget, she's got this filthy bandage on her hand that she's had on for like a week. And at that point, it was
Yeah.
literally just dirt and poop. Like it wasn't even cloth anymore.
Well, and
So,
then
like,
she's got like
all the-
giant chemicals.
Yeah, the
sitting on her-
chemicals,
on her
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not
counter.
like
And
I-
she answered the door half naked too.
if
so-
anything, I'm kind of amazed this woman walked
she
in
did.
and hung out for as long as she did. If I'm being real with you, because I would have been like, I'm about to get murdered.
See, that's to Eric's point. Like, that's what made it seem genuine to me. Like, I think that woman was there to make herself feel better because she felt bad about what the history was. But I do think she genuinely wanted to connect with Maude, and like, because why would she hang out there so long rather than just like knock on the door, say something through the entryway, and then just
Yeah.
jet. And then to say like, I'm gonna stop by later. Like, I felt like there was some genuine concern
well,
there.
no. I think you're both right. Like the first interaction was a little like, "Ugh."
Yeah.
But then it. I agree. Like they needed some character like this to try to like reestablish or reconnect her to humanity. And like at this point, I was like, who is it going to be? Like they, I mean,
Well-
they could have written.
Well, and
something
she's the closest we have to a proxy. Sort
Yeah,
of like
that's-
walking in and being like, "Oh, I'm very concerned
Yeah.
about this situation. I'll come back later."
Well, and I mean, and Eric's right. Like, we never get what fully happened. I mean, like, you can infer that from the beginning scene. Like, she's sitting in the corner, like, of the looks like an ER room, like covered in blood, and then like I think somebody mentioned something about like someone not being resuscitated, or maybe I read that. I can't
Yeah, I-
remember, but like obviously like this person died in the operating room.
Yeah.
And I don't know if she had a mental break, but like if you are there and you experience someone else having a mental breakdown, like I would imagine that could be very traumatizing. So she could also be feeling bad that she was traumatized and took so long to reach out, I guess.
Yeah.
I got the impression like a lot of the flashes or like images she was seeing during her lovemaking was pretty close to what had happened to her in the
Yeah.
past.
Dude, that
like
scene,
I don't know if it was
that scene where
as
her,
extreme, but like
that scene where her hands go through his chest, it's one of the first
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
full-on reality breaks that she has. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, that noise, I was like, oh,
oh, the noise in this
I-
in general, like we saw it in the trailer, so I don't think we're really spoiling anything, but there's needles in the foot.
Yeah.
And just the sound, like, because I joked about it over email, but I did watch this like you're supposed to watch like an eclipse, right? Where you like I sort
I was
of
doing
looked in the
this
general
with the
direction.
hand with the hand
Like,
peeling. I was full on doing this.
You had a pinhole viewer.
yeah,
Yeah.
but there was still like
Playing on the-
you hear that like crunch of it like going in,
Mhm.
and then even when she's walking, it's like holy.
Yeah, she's
fuck.
walking around
The
and like making this
squelch.
face, like
Yeah.
the squelching noise. It's
Like even
so
just thinking about it right now, like I feel sick.
Well, I think I remember the trailer. The thing I remember from the trailer was the hand on the hot stove.
Yeah,
And that's when I was like, oh, this is definitely A24.
it was a lot.
Are we gonna get into the ending and spoil or?
Yeah, let's do it right
I
now.
think so.
Okay,
Spoiler alert.
I had mentioned this over email, but when I lived in Santiago, there were two individuals that died by suicide, and the manner in which they did it was self-immolation. And we get an instance of that here at the end, and we can talk more about it. But I don't know. I didn't see those things happen live, but they were on the news while I was cooking dinner when I was in Chile, and I was like, oh shit! I walked by that church because one man did it, like at the top of a church. He self-immolated and jumped. And I would walk by that church every day on my way to work. So,
You know what's
I don't know.
kinda-
It's not something that you think about happening, but it happened
No.
twice when I lived there.
But you know what's kind of fascinating that I'm just putting together as we're talking about it, and kind of the way John's talking about how much it puts you in her head. When you hear, though, a story about something like that, to me, I think most normal people are like just disturbed, but also blown away. Like, what kind of mental state are you in that you can even physically do that? And it's
Yeah.
kind of what this movie is doing. It's like 90 minutes of putting you exactly in the kind of shoes, or at least like a posited version of what this might look like to somebody who's actually in that state. of
Oh
mind.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it slow builds enough where you get to the end that like you're not like, yeah, this is what you should do, but you're like,
Well,
you understand her A to B to C to get to like where she is.
yeah. When
Yeah.
it happens, it does not feel that extreme.
No.
Actually, like it's
Right.
it's still extreme to see, but it doesn't feel that extreme. This is where, I mean, I mentioned this briefly over email, and we don't need to spend a ton of time on it. But like the other thing that I think this movie is like super genius about, it's a portrait of radicalization,
Mhm.
and like
Mhm.
you know, in this case, it's like a very specific radicalization around, you know, Roman Catholic. I guess it's Roman. I mean, CC said Roman Catholic. I'm on trust you on it. Like, you know, but
Let's just be thankful she didn't have like TikTok or something. Schnars, this could have gone a different way. She could have ended up QAnon or some shit.
No, well, but like, look, like I think about like suicide bombers all the time. It's like, and you know, it's like,
all the time.
Do you, John?
it's like I can't think about anything else, guys.
Oh my gosh.
All the
but,
time,
like,
John.
You read it, but you know, obviously this shit is like in the news.
That's
a
funny
lot.
because I think
So-
about your hair all the time.
No, I hear you. I get it. That's why I grew it out. But you know, like you have that moment where you're like, oh, I can't imagine someone like blowing themselves up. Like this is if anything like less extreme because she's self-radicalized but in an isolated way,
Mhm.
you know. Yeah, I mean, Derek, to your point, like it feels honest, like it feels real, you know, in a way that a lot of films I don't think could get there. So
Well,
Oh,
and
Sick fuck.
I do appreciate
Did you say
that
sick fuck?
the last like 5 seconds of this movie leave you with such like I mean, in typical A24 fashion, like you don't finish the movie feeling good, but you know, the last like 5 seconds of this movie,
So good.
if you thought that you had like made up your mind about like what was happening, that flash, you're just like, well,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. No,
well-
it's like, and it's so
I mean, you
quick.
do. I mean, like you can know, but
What I love is
appreciated that like
it's so quick. It almost like not recontextualizes everything because you've
Right.
already been there in your head. Like, is this real or not? But like, it's like a flash of a thing that just gives you a lot of thoughts about the whole movie, and then it just cuts to black, and you're like, holy shit, bro.
Yeah.
And I
mean, it's literally like 2 seconds,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
how effective it
Mhm.
is.
And I'm watching that scene. It's like, oh, she brought water with her. Oh, she's pouring it on her. Oh, and then she pulls the lighter out. And I was like, oh no, oh no. And like you can see, I love how people around her start to pay attention, and I love the subtle ways where it actually flickers back and forth in that scene between her
Yeah.
reality
Mhm.
and like supposed other reality, and like seeing the difference in like what the people are doing is really fat. Like she's seeing everyone else like kind of bowing
Right.
to her or kneeling to her or something like that. I don't even remember.
Well,
what
at
it was.
the last shot, or that second to last shot, is they all like fall to their knees, like
Yeah.
with their arms up, like they're
Yeah.
worshiping her, and like
Mhm.
they're actually all like screaming and like, you know,
Yeah.
what I mean, yeah,
It's so good. It's such a
yeah.
good
The
shot, though.
editing and to your point, Eric, the like sound design there, it was just amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I almost want to go watch that last 10 minutes again, but How about the?
You would, you sicko.
Well, you know
No,
what I
I would
loved?
too.
You've been
That-
thinking
that-
about it all day, huh?
Well, that final sort of meeting with that and Suicide Bomber.
Don't
show,
ever make fun of my turn-ons again, John. All right?
God.
Joe just
Come on,
wants to bang
come
the
on.
Lady Gremlin, John. Like
I
that's,
know.
that's pretty vanilla compared to what you're talking about.
that final showdown. Not showdown. Showdown's inappropriate. But that final meeting with Amanda,
Yeah.
where Amanda basically goes like full like. She imagines her going full like devil, like she becomes,
Yeah.
whatever, I guess it's the devil. So, I don't know. It was wild.
I
There was that one
loved the
face shot.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
that scene. I loved the voices,
Oh,
the
yeah.
the like
Yeah.
modulated voices, because I really like when she thinks she's talking to God. I mean, it straight up sounds like a demon. Like it does
Yeah.
not sound like
Yeah.
any kind of Jesus situation that I would.
Well, that was
imagine.
the Black Phillip reference.
Yeah.
I was assuming Caitlin was
Totally,
talking
I
about it,
love
so-
that.
And I think that was real. I really liked that too, though, because like it's such a I don't know, religion itself is just open to such interpretation. So like just because you think that like the voice of God or the voice of Christ like should be this like like music to your ears, like I mean, it's just like angels. Like biblical angels are fucking terrifying. Like the way that they're described look like monsters, but you see them described as like, really cute baby cherubs. Like that's not what angels look like. So it's really cool that we don't get a like really positive, like, soft voice, like fatherly figured voice of God, that you get this like really guttural sound of like, I'm telling you to
Well, and I also
do all
the
these
place
things.
where she's going is so dark and kind of frightening. I think at that point in the movie, it also makes you really wonder about what's happening. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe it is a demon talking to her. Like, you don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's interesting. I think it's a really deliberate choice, I guess, is what I'm saying, to make that voice sound ominous, and then kind of it's at a point in the movie where you're really just like, what is going on at this point? Like,
Well,
and
it's
also,
one of the
is she
instances where we
talking to the
get sort
cockroach?
of like traditional religious horror elements. I know that Cece had mentioned that the writer director was trying to move away from some of that, but we get that in sort of like the demonic voice that comes, that's God, and then sort of like the demonic quote unquote possession of Amanda. But there's also that scene where she's in her apartment and sort of recovering from her, I guess, relapse back into sins of the flesh. And she's sort of like sexiness and she's lifted up sort of like exorcist style, and she's like sort of thrown back, and that's one of the few times we get sort of that traditional religious horror, but it's really effective. It's not like I haven't seen that 1,000 times before,
Oh, sure.
but in this context, really really impactful.
Well, I think too, like now, just the more I think about the fact that the voice of God was like really demonic, like the Old Testament God told someone to sacrifice his son. So I can't imagine that the voice of God
was super
would be
friendly. Like, hey, bro, what's up?
Hey, I appreciate what you're doing for
I'm
me
gonna
here,
need
and
you to go ahead and
Nails
stay
in the
the
foot is cool
weekend.
and all.
Yeah,
Thanks for
but I'm
that.
really gonna need the next level. So I really appreciate, like Caitlin's saying, like I appreciate there's like visual traditional horror and like callbacks or like kind of symbolism towards like spirituality, but I also really appreciate that visually, like you see this deterioration of Maude. I mean, like it was such a great, I haven't seen a character depicted that well in the midst of a deterioration other than in The Invisible Man, when like her whole character is deteriorating. So I really appreciate like that kind of juxtaposition.
Yeah. I am now just kind of obsessed with the idea of like a really cool, chill God telling you to do fucked up things. Like so,
Jeff Bridges being
you know
God.
what would be really cool? Like, have you ever thought about lighting yourself on fire? Like, I don't, it might be cool. Maybe I got something for you. I'm just saying.
Oh, Eric, for you specifically, one of the first notes and last notes I took for this movie was that Maude sort of seems like if Angela from The Office went off the deep end.
Oh,
Dude, I like that. Like a really dark
nice.
Angela, dark timeline.
Yeah.
Very nice. All right, guys. Saint Maud, tricky question. Would you recommend this movie? Cece,
Yes.
Caitlin,
Yes.
Joe,
Yeah, I would recommend it, but I would not watch it with the person I recommended. it to.
Schnars.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, I'm saying thumbs up, dude. This movie's fantastic. It's a really good pick too for Women in Horror Month. And like I said, Schnars has made me watch way worse shit. Like this is nothing,
Yeah.
dude. Like this is a walk in the park. I'll watch this tomorrow, just hanging out at work or something. I don't care. I don't care, John. I will.
I
Don't
don't
dare
know.
me.
I mean, the more I think about it, the body horror in this was not as intense for me as like Hereditary.
You know
Yeah.
what my problem is? Needles, I got a real thing with needles. So
really.
like even those like early shots of her just giving Amanda her injections, I was just like, I'm out. I'm done. Like,
Yeah.
I can't do it.
All right, guys.
You're not getting the vaccine, are you, Joe?
5 thumbs up.
For what, John?
5 thumbs up. For the BGH crew, Joe. I'm definitely gonna need my list on the other side of here. But
Oh, yeah.
before we do that,
Although this was 2020,
No,
wasn't
it
it? I
just-
don't think.
No, U.S. release 2021.
it's getting released
It
on
counts.
Friday. This day this release is released.
All right.
All right, guys. Let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
New Line Cinema sadly mourn.
This is always the one I do this. It's the wrong one. Stand by. We'll cut this out later, guys. It's okay.
Leave it in. This is good.
How about this one?
Welcome to a brand new nightmare.
Great to be back in business.
The final nightmare.
It's your mind will go for it.
I won't tell.
This is my favorite.
It's gotta be me and him. We're gonna have to hit him with everything we've got. Cool.
Freddy's Dead. The final nightmare. They saved the best for last. Rated R. Starts Friday, September 13th at a theater near you.
Hey, I'm Lisa Zane from Nightmare on Elm Street, and you are listening to Bloody Good Horror.
Send feedback to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or on Twitter using hashtag AskBGH. Join Patreon to get back episodes and much more. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror.
And we're back. John,
Yes, Eric.
did you know that I made that song?
I did. I've
Don't
heard
fall-
it before.
Don't fall asleep.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm a little sleepy, but I'll be all right.
You can hear more of my music, John, by going to Spotify and searching for Hi-Fi. HY-FY.
I have you. I'm following you.
Yeah. Caitlin is
think-
probably the only person on the show who's listened to it because she supports
That's
me.
not true. I listen to it.
Yeah, I listened to your Spotify stuff.
CC smiling.
Don't-
I know she has it.
don't-
It's fine.
Don't like search for compliments, Eric. All right, it's not becoming.
I'm sorry, Eric. If I had known, I would have, but I didn't know.
Play it for the baby.
It's
Yeah.
fine. It's fine.
Yeah, that's what we'll do.
I'm just kidding.
No, you're
It's
not.
good stuff. It's good stuff.
It's fine. I don't need love and acceptance. info@bloodygoodhorror.com is the email address. Before we do that, quick, Joe, let's do my list quick here.
Yeah, I got it in front of me.
I mean,
see.
I think I only have 1 and 10, right? So let's put this at 2.
All right, everything's running slow.
1, I
Yeah,
had that movie we did last week. 2 is-
Promising Young Woman.
Yeah.
You have at number 1, and number 10 you have Psycho Gorman.
Yeah, I think I'd put this at 2 at this point.
All right.
Somewhere in between those two. It's
PG.
And then there's Maude.
did CC. I'm gonna assume you didn't watch Psycho Gorman.
No, I missed that one.
Well,
I think
you
Kyle.
got something to look forward to.
You and
Yeah.
Kyle might be into it. It's a fun one.
I feel like CC might be into it. There's no reason to think that.
Okay. Okay, so that's set. So this is, as we mentioned, this is Women in Horror Month. As part of that, all the proceeds from our online store this month are going to RAIN, which is the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. It is the largest charity working for victims of sexual violence in the U.S. So for Women in Horror Month, we have a new shirt design. It's a pink logo. It's really cool. You can get it on anything, which we learned today, John, because who was it on Slack?
Robel.
Yes. Got
Roger.
the pillow, and it looks dope as shit. And now I kind of want a pink logo BGH pillow. It's like amazing. You can get it on all kinds of crap on our store. So if you go to it's shirts.bloodygoodhorror.com, it'll take you right to our store. And Joe, there's also, I believe, a patron exclusive code this month for like a discount.
Yeah, 20% off for Patreons.
So
I think
if somebody were to sign up right now for that, like how would they get it?
Yeah, you'll get it in our weekly emails that I'm doing weekly.
Wonderful.
And I think right now, I know there's a sale going on right now. I think it goes through Friday. So if you're hearing this, there's a sale or something.
Speaking as a patron, do it.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yep. So shirts.bloodygoodhorror.com. Also, I got a note from Andy about the website. We have wrapped our coverage of the Sundance Film Festival. Luke reviewed the creepy pasta fueled "We're All Going to the World's Fair." Sophie checked out Carlson Young's feature director debut, The Blazing World. Sophie has a review for Promising Young Woman. And lastly, Adam's In Extremis is now live discussing genocide tribunals in La Llorona. Sounds like a real knee slapper. Info@bloodygoodhorror.com if you want to send us emails.
I had that same thought when I saw the subject.
I love Adam. That's all I'm going to say. Never change Adam. Okay. I'm just going to play this with no context here, and you guys can decide what this is.
Hey there, Tuesday friends. Joe from Bloody Good Horror here, back again. You're all sitting down or just about to watch 2016's The Love Witch, which I assume...
I should say. This is Cameo, Joe.
Mm.
Is this for Whitney?
Yeah,
Is this
so
the one you're doing for her
Whitney
weekly
has
movie
been,
watching group?
including me and her. I think every other Tuesday, her and a group of friends are doing like a virtual sort of movie watch. And for the past few weeks, she's let me intro them.
I love it.
Your friend Angel picked this one out, I assume in sort of honor of Valentine's Day and all the beautiful sexy sex happening right now. The Love Witch, I'm sure you've seen the trailer. Who hasn't, right? Like 5 years old, the movie, but I feel like it just, popped up and we were all just infatuated and excited about it, tintillated, as you would say, when your carnal desires are piqued and ready to thrust out into the world, which, you're watching this on Tuesday, Valentine's Day was Sunday. Whatever you did with someone or yourself, it's your business, right? But, we live in a modern world where your sexual desires and fantasies can be fulfilled with just a click of a button on the internet. Not so in what I assume this movie is supposed to take place in the 70s or something. It has that sort of vibe about it, right? Like they go out of their way to give that sort of go-go. It feels like a go-go movie, right? Like
I really like, I assume. Wow, I'm just going to keep talking like I know.
He did watch the trailer, Eric. I mean,
I've seen the movie, John.
Like
I've seen the full
dancers.
movie.
Like it feels like one of those Annette Punicello beach party movies, right?
Annette Punicello? Is that what you said?
You have no idea what the hell I'm talking
That
about
is
anymore.
not her name.
But anyway, trust me, it was a thing. And, a little past, before my time, I was born in 78. I was really more of an 80s, kid growing up. A lot of Go-Go's, but the ones I mentioned first, Belinda Carlisle.
Oh, this is what I
huge
want to hear.
crush. Just, there's, I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but the Go-Go's, they apparently have this video that circulated back when they were popular of them just doing God knows what in a hotel room. It was like debauchery. And it was very scandalous at the time because, ooh, women doing things. And, not that things have changed that much, but I do feel like it would be a little more accepted now. But
well,
whatever.
is that a real thing? Was
Oh,
that
yeah,
really-
100%.
P.S.
100% a real thing.
Joe just paused to take a drink. She couldn't. What you hear is his ice clinking around. His like he
Yeah.
was on one. He needed to take a drink. Have you seen this video, Joe?
No, I have
Surely, if it was circulating, it's found its way to the
not.
internet
It's got
somewhere, right?
Now,
Like,
honestly, I have not thought about this in probably 20 years. But then when I started talking about the Go-Girls, it was the first thing that popped in my head.
Go girls.
It is straight stream of consciousness with these cameos.
I love
It's
it.
like- it's-
I love it. I want to
Whatever
play.
it
I'd
is,
like to play
fine.
more, but we're running late. That's what you get. Cameo. I mean, we're not running late, but you know what I mean. Cameo.com/bloodygoodhorror.
Late enough.
Well, let's finish. Let's let him here. Let's go back. Okay. Let's,
I mean, it
let,
goes
him,
on for
let's
7
let him
minutes.
finish
Like,
this
there's-
Go-Go's thought quick, because I want to hear where this goes.
They're here nor there.
Oh, that's
The
it.
Love Witch, beautiful, beautiful sexual movie, just
Really
about
put
a
a
witch.
Neither here nor
period on
there.
that one.
Yeah.
Trying to find
I'm
love
glad,
and
I'm
just
glad we
navigate
finished
things.
that.
Anyway, so there you go. Finish that thought. Cameo.com/bloodygoodhorror. That's what you're missing out on, people. We need your Valentine's Day cameos. Please
Oh.
get them in, because it's just golden show material, and I need it in my life. So please, let's get this. Let's make this
I
happen.
want to put you and your loved one, or just you. Like if you're just gonna pleasure yourself,
Maybe a
like
little
I just
solo
want to help
sesh. Yeah.
Does Leslie know that you're going to help people pleasure themselves?
you.
Joe,
Oh, she's well aware.
Joe, love is love. It's the pandemic. Not all of us could
Yeah.
be around people right now, so it is what it is.
With the exception of people like John, who apparently only get off on like people blowing themselves up, I can help most of you.
John has a weird car crash fetish. It's like that, that Cronenberg movie. Yeah. All right. info@bloodygoodhorror.com. Joe, what do we got on Twitter?
Yeah, we are on Twitter at BG Horror. Every week we post up. You can send in your questions with the hashtag AskBGH. First up from our buddy Jason the bearded dad. So is this a Maude Flanders origin story?
Could be. I like this.
Yeah. Next up from my one and only fan, she's my favorite, Renee, Deus Ex Manati. I probably say that wrong, but it's fine. Who is your favorite spooky medical professional? I'd say Dr. Satan from House of a Thousand Corpses, although I'm doubtful his degree is legit.
Right. Honestly, Dr. Satan is pretty dope.
I mean,
that's a pretty
he's
good
pretty
answer.
up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although, I
Dr.
mean,
Giggles? You guys
Yeah,
know?
that's the only other
yes.
one I can think of.
Oh,
yeah.
yes. Dr.
Do
Giggles.
all the veterinary students from Raw count? Because
Mm,
that's
Yeah.
for me.
those are good too.
yeah.
What's that Friday the 13th? The one that we used, part
Yes.
3 maybe? The
It's-
sexy nurse.
It's the beginning. It's the beginning of part 4. He's been brain axed at the end of part 3. They bring him to the morgue, and there's like a really creepy dude and a sexy nurse who are like getting it on when he wakes up.
I mean,
Well, no, I was
Oh.
thinking.
You're thinking Halloween 2, Joe, which
No,
is
I'm thinking of the one that it takes place in the institution where like she ends up tying up the kid with like her tongue or something.
that's Nightmare on Elm Street part 3, The Dream Warriors, Joe.
Yes, yeah. See,
Yeah.
it was part 3.
She was a Playboy playmate, Joe.
Yeah, she was.
And we failed to mention Dr. Abe Saperstein, which makes me sad.
Who's
so
that?
we gotta include him from Rosemary's Baby.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was gonna say there's definitely other doctors. I'd have to think. This is another
No,
one.
there's only been like 3, John, and
I
a
mean,
sexy
Dr.
nurse.
Giggles, like totally.
Dr.
not-
Giggles is a
top tier.
real good one. That movie.
Two
that
two
movie-
actual doctors, one Dr. Satan, a sexy nurse, and that covers it.
Dr.
I
Giggles
I believe
kills
Dr. Giggles was a dentist.
Dr.
so-
Giggles kills a person, John, by like pinning them to a wall with a giant oversized like band-aid.
Yeah, but wait, he was a dentist, wasn't he?
Are you
No, he
saying
was a
dentists aren't
doctor.
doctors, John?
No, he was a doctor.
PDS. Was he? All right, I'm maybe.
Yeah,
I'm-
They're
Are
doctors.
you an anti-dentite,
kidding.
John?
Rabbit
Don't get me
anti-dentite.
started.
Oh man.
All right, next up from John's favorite, and this one kind of broke me because I made the same sort of jump. COW Flanagan, you're covering Maude so hard. I've wanted to cleave to B. Arthur since the 70s. What sitcom character do y'all most want to make Whoopi to?
Oh my god. Wait, who is this? That was Flanagan, right?
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right. Yeah. Oh, B. Arthur.
Sitcom character.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
question.
Someone already said Maude Flanders. I mean, that's
Yeah. I'm
Eric.
sticking with that one.
I
John?
would probably go Dan Connor from John Goodman and Roseanne.
John, stop.
Really?
He's so lovable and he's handsome. John's reaction made me upset just now.
It's,
He's a dreamboat. Look at them pythons
Alright.
next time you see him.
true. It was a different time for John Goodman. I can't think of I think of John Goodman now, and I'm like,
I mean, he could
it's-
definitely fix your sink, which
different
I guess is
choice.
kind of erotic in its own way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be nice to have a handyman around the house.
Yeah, of course. How about Aunt Becky from Full House?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, also
Well,
solid.
yeah.
I feel like there's no wrong answer here, really.
No,
there's
there is.
wrong answers.
No, there's wrong answers.
There's definitely wrong
Like
answers.
sitcom people, if you're
Yeah.
on a sitcom, like you've already cleared a certain bar, I feel like, right?
Well, no, John, but
You're
it's more
going,
about
like,
your own proclivities. That's
George
what we're,
Costanza's
John,
dad,
we're digging into your
we're-
own proclivities here.
Jerry
That's the thing.
Stiller.
I know we are getting a eye-opening look into John's.
John, the point of this question is not for you to just name off attractive people. It's to find out what you specifically are attracted to.
I need like an internet quiz here, Eric. Can you,
for
like,
John,
some-
you either have to be in the process of blowing yourself up or on a TV show.
So confused, John.
Yeah.
So is he. It's okay.
God bless your wife.
I'll just go with Roseanne and we'll call it a day. All right.
Oh, we're so in sync tonight, John.
Oh boy. Erie, Arizona. Every time I eat some trail mix, I start saying to myself, Franz Kranz, and then I can't stop saying it for the rest of the day. How do I convince my family I'm not a lunatic?
There was just announced recently something he's directing, and there was a whole thread about it on Twitter. Oh, somebody was like, how did I not know that the stoner from Cabin in the Woods directed blah, blah, blah. And then a lot of people were like, oh, you mean like Fran Kranz or whatever? It took everything in my being to not jump into that thread and make a Franz Kranz jokes because nobody would have got it, but I wanted to do it anyway. Like,
What was that movie? That was something. It was something.
well, he acted in that movie.
Where he's in the video
I might
store.
be the killer. You might be the killer. But apparently he directed something really good. I just can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I know. And I thought we watched it.
I'll look it up.
If only there was some place like on maybe the internet where we could get this information.
I didn't know what you were fucking talking about until a second
Fran
ago.
Kranz.
You might not
Yeah.
have, were you on that show, John? Maybe you weren't on that show.
Well, it came up another time where I also was confused, but yeah, now I
dude,
figured it.
that's funny. He's in The Village. Didn't know that.
Are you looking at his directing? God,
Shit, I'm looking at his acting. Wait a
he's
second.
only directed one thing, Mass. I don't know what the fuck that was.
Yeah,
Oh,
you're
it
right.
hasn't come out yet.
So maybe it was something he was acting in. Who knows? I saw it.
I can't do this anymore.
Cool story.
Here's one last on Twitter, and then we'll jump to Instagram from Skizbot. You ever get that bag of Doritos that barely has any cheese dust on the chips, and it ruins your whole goddamn day?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Totally had
Very-
that.
Yeah.
I've
like-
had this happen.
Oh,
I
it's
haven't,
like,
yeah.
oh, fuck this whole bag.
Only the small. I've only had it happen to a small bag, like one of the like whatever like they're called the fun size or whatever.
Yeah.
I've had it in like the medium kind that you get
yeah.
at Sheets, like when you're on a road
Oh
trip.
yeah, like
Yeah.
the like
Interesting.
99-cent
I've
bag. or
never
whatever.
had.
Yeah.
You
It's
don't
like,
eat a
oh,
lot of
cool.
Doritos. Maybe that's the problem.
I don't eat them a lot, but it's like one of those things where like, well, the problem is I can't get them anymore. My kids would eat an entire bag in like, 10 minutes. They'd be all gone. So
You have control over your kids, right, John? Like,
yeah, no, but that's the thing. Then you have to spend like half your time being like, oh, where am I going to hide this bag of Doritos? It's like,
Jesus Christ, John, what is going on in your house?
dude, I don't want to have to spend my time policing what they're eating. I got other shit to worry about.
Oh, you mean fathering? Is that
yeah.
parenting,
Exactly.
John? Is that what you're? Every week we get a little more glimpse into just how lucky Suzanne is, huh?
No, we instead we buy the goldfish by the fucking, the huge.
Yeah, I do know that. We have one of those, yeah.
And we just let them run wild. It's like, go ahead, eat these until you throw up.
You put wheels on the bottom and they can just like push it around the house.
Real Lord of the Flies situation happening at the Schnorr's residence. I like it.
Just ride this around.
What the fuck is happening? All right. Over on Instagram, we're on Instagram, Bloody Good Horror. Every Tuesday we post up. You can send in your fun questions. First up from our friend who refuses to use the form. What celebrity would you each open mouth kiss regardless of the pandemic for Valentine's Day?
That's a good question.
Oh.
I'm assuming
Regardless
Schnars
of the
can't.
pandemic.
I'm assuming Schnars can't
Um,
get there, but
I feel like if you guys know me at all from Slack, my answer is always going to be Woody Harrelson.
Mm.
wow, that's a bold move. Yeah.
Do you know me, Eric? Do you
No, I get it.
participate
I've
in
just read a
Slack?
lot. I've read a lot of stories about his bathing habits that make me wonder what he smells like. Like
He looks like he smells. Like, I'm
Yeah.
sure he's very nice, but he looks like he smells.
yeah.
He probably smells like weed, but
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
weed
what I
is
would
cool.
think.
I'm down. With
Actually, I take it back. I mean, Tessa Thompson would be second, but first would be Rihanna.
Yeah, I think I'd be lying if I said it wasn't Jessica Alba. If we're talking, if I have to risk COVID, there's only one person.
Yeah.
I
Joe.
don't think I want to make out with anyone. Like, I don't just like if I'm gonna ruin my marriage and get COVID, like
You want to go all the way.
yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not.
yeah, yeah.
Doing,
Well, we're
I'm
not
not
saying
doing-
it can't go to that. I think they're
Yeah.
specifically saying like
You're just starting out. You're just starting
we're gonna
out at
make sure that if one of
level
you is sick, the other one's
You've-
getting sick, and you
you've-
do that by making out.
You've met my beautiful, loving wife. It cannot go beyond that. For the future of my existence. Anyway, all right. Oh, a follow up from a question last week or maybe the week before. Now that I'm in Philly, what is my exit strategy? Italian pork sandwich, fueled heart attack, car accident? A lot of people don't talk about the pork sandwich they have there. And it is, the wife loves it. Like, it's very good, but nobody talks about it. All they talk about is the cheesesteaks.
Philly's where the deflowering house is, right? Their apartment building or whatever it is.
Apartment building, yes.
Yeah.
Former Planned Parenthood building.
I'm
turned,
just remembering
apartment.
like your whole story about like AOL chat and like
It was a lot.
fascinating.
It was beautiful. It was a
Yeah.
beautiful thing to be a part of.
In that era, when you send each other pictures, did you have like a DSL on? Like, were you waiting 10 minutes as like the picture loaded each like
It
kilobyte?
waited. Yeah, it was a little bit.
Yeah,
All right.
fun.
Let's get the rest
There
of
was a wait. There was a
What horror movie should my husband and I watch on Valentine's Day?
Mm.
Saint Maud.
just do a whole A24 marathon. You'll feel
Yeah.
great.
Someone on Slack, and I'm gonna forget her name, made made a letterbox list of like loved theme horror movies.
Yeah.
Pretty good list.
Oh, what was that movie we watched? Spring? A couple years
That is
ago?
a movie that we watched. Yeah.
It was beautiful. It was a romance story, John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, nobody burst into flames to get your jollies off, but all right. Glenn Danzig made another movie, a vampire western. Can we get a BGH review? If I make one thing happen in 2021, yes, we will have a BGH review.
I never saw that. What was the other movie that everyone they said it's like the worst thing ever made?
Oh, someone with the V. Yeah, it looked terrible. And
Oh,
I've heard-
Vamp.
Yeah.
Vamp, I think.
No, it was Van. I don't know. It was a spooky name. But yeah, I am very interested. It's got like Danny Trejo's in there. I think Eli Roth is in there at some point.
All right.
What's her name?
That's not exactly like
Well, it's more than you'd
hard
expect.
to get.
That the goth woman from Blair Witch 2, Eric,
Oh, I like her.
whose name I forget, but
Yeah.
I enjoy her work a great deal.
Yeah.
You know who she was, John? She was on The Deuce.
Oh.
She was the it was one of the prostitutes. You probably would like
That
she
was most of the characters.
most
so.
of the characters, yeah. So it's hard. She's the one that got strung out, like so. It's hard to.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know.
the
Exactly.
dark hair, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, next up, anything good on Shudder lately? I mean, we've had a few movies that we ended up liking, right? The Mortuary Collection, and what was the other one we just watched?
Yeah, Mortuary Collections is a shit ton of fun. If you
Oh
haven't seen
shit!
it.
We just watched one on Watch and Chat. It was like a modern telling of Red Riding Hood.
Mm.
They like always have those
Good.
super long fan documentaries too for Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the
Oh, yeah.
13th. Those are like constant watches for me, and they keep up it depends on the rights to the movies, but they keep up a lot of the Last Drive-In stuff. It kind of the movie cycle now, but there's always Joe Bob stuff there you can check
Yeah.
out, which is really
There's a Joe Bob on Friday. That,
yeah,
we'll
Valentine's
watch
Day,
there.
Joe Bob. Yeah.
Anything for Guffman or whatever the hell it was? The movie that John refused to let on our top 10 list. Anything for
Anything
Jackson?
for Jackson.
Anything for Jackson. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good. That movie Hunted, we've talked about. That's
Oh, yeah.
up there right now.
Here's one that I don't fully understand, but I'm definitely on board with. Would you /BGH consider doing a live cast via stereo app where we call in live? I don't know what that means. I don't know what stereo is, but I am all for doing a live call-in advice show where I just solve people's problems like on the fly.
That's got to
I-
be Patreon level, like $20.
I'm gonna be real with you. As the person who has to like produce that thing / deal with the chaos of it in real time, maybe it would do. Like the people need to be screened. I'm not taking randos live on the air. Like that's way too dangerous.
I see this more as just like a Facebook Live thing where like people can just send in questions and make stupid comments.
I mean, you could just do that on Instagram too.
Yeah, exactly.
Facebook's dumb Jones for old
I'm
people
not
and
logging
conspiracy
in
theories.
I'm telling you guys right now.
Oh,
We could do.
What will you
what
log
the hell's-
into, John?
oh.
I mean, probably nothing. But,
Right, so it's a
what's
moot
the
point.
one, the thing that everyone's talking about right now? That's
TikTok?
No, there's like, fuck. It'll come to me.
Yeah.
In any event,
You mean the thing the white supremacists are using? The new
Parlor?
Yeah, that's what
Parlor?
that is, John.
That's the one you're
Is that
on.
what you're gonna
what
log
I-
into?
The
Cool,
The
cool.
least
Oh,
surprising
it's
thing we've
Gab,
learned on this
actually.
show.
Cool, bro. Cool.
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah.
Wait, what is it, John?
Oh
Gab?
no, I was gonna say John's on Parlor is like the least surprising thing that we've heard on this episode.
I think didn't it get shut down? I thought
Patriot
Parler's going-
69420.
Yeah, like you don't know, John.
Wow.
Anyone that's been on TV 69 at AOL.com.
Hashtag stop the steal.
Oh God.
All right, next up. There's stool in my blood. What do I do?
Ooh, I mean that seems way worse than blood in your stool. So you might want to go to a
Yeah.
doctor.
I think I
I
know
think
answer.
I think you got some pipes going in the wrong place.
Yeah.
You should get
Unless-
that.
I mean,
You
my
should go to
question was,
Dr.
is it
Giggles and
your-
get that checked out.
Is it your stool? Because that even worse.
Right.
Not really a question, but I saw a housewife got in trouble for an Army Hammer tweet. Thought of Joe.
Do you guys
Yeah,
know,
Brandy-
John? Oh, this is great, John. Do you know what's going on with Army Hammer right now?
Dude, I'm like I'm so down
He
that
is like
rabbit hole.
straight up a cute, like, okay. Someone leaked alleged DMs from him on Instagram where he was talking about wanting like cannibal shit, like he wants to eat her, like body parts.
Yeah.
And then an ex-girlfriend came out and was like, yeah, he used to joke about like eating my ribs and shit. And like, it's fucking, so apparently like he's been dropped by all these people. Like he might
Yeah.
legit be a serial killer.
Yeah, but
John.
now did you see that there's a link, like it's not out yet, but there's a link about how he was working as a construction worker during the pandemic. And well, I mean, it's still happening, but you know, like a couple of months ago. And now they found remains like close to where he was working. And they're like, what if he's actually a real serial killer?
Well, somebody, I
don't
did see, you
understand.
probably saw this, CC. Somebody dug up an old tweet of his where he joked about, like, he said he woke up in the morning and his mother was standing over him trying to, like, give him an exorcism.
Yeah. Well,
And people are
also,
like, oh, that's
so
weird. But
on
he wasn't
TikTok-
joking.
Yeah, on TikTok, his aunt is on TikTok, and she has written a book and basically talks about how crazy their family is and like how intensely like really messed up they are. So it wouldn't surprise me, but it also makes me want to listen to her audio.
I also didn't know that he was, like, an heir to, like, a fortune. I didn't realize
Yeah,
that.
I mean he's like he's an oil tycoon, like an heir to an oil tycoon.
I need like a 6-part docu-series on this.
Yeah.
I'm sure
I'll
there
be honest.
will
I
be
had to
one.
look up who he was. I do know. I
John,
know who this person is now.
Don't you, like, manage a bunch of young people? Don't they fucking tell you anything about what's
No.
going on in the world?
I mean, John, I know
don't do that
nothing about
anymore.
this whole saga either, so don't feel bad. I do know that Brandy Glanville did make a comment about him. Although she's a former housewife, she's
I only know her from Big Brother, Joe. She seemed real,
Yeah,
she seemed
yes,
real
there you go.
annoying.
once again we connect. What do you think of Benson and Moorhead's movies? Resolution, Spring, John, The Endless.
Do you know what my favorite
Synchronic?
part of this is, Joe? You referred, like, your answer refers to them as one person, which I really liked.
Well, they are, right? They're making movies together.
Like,
are
you
they
were
doing
like,
anything?
I like his work.
Yeah.
I want to see the new one because I think I might like the new one. I feel like I really like their ideas, and I really like just the kind of like philosophical places they're exploring. I do not always think the movies totally come together, just from the ones that I've seen.
They just got picked to direct Moon Knight.
Something-
It's like it's a Marvel thing.
Yeah, something
MCU.
big.
Based on that
No.
shitty Van Morrison song, right?
Good God.
John.
No, I'm not dignifying that with anything.
Did you lose your flower to that song, John? Next up, best hot toddy recommendation for a very cold day, Old Bean. I mean, hot toddies are just hot toddies, right? Like, you don't make anything. I don't care for whiskey. I think it's...
You do it with brandy, too.
Wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Brandy?
Could you buy me a PS5, please? No. The answer just simply no.
No, sir.
Oh my God, was that my brother? My brother asks me that constantly.
How did he get this?
Did you tell him to get a job?
What's the perfect Valentine's Day gift that's not candy or chocolate?
Joe, can you read your answer?
Something actually thoughtful.
What did I say? Mouth stuff?
You said mouth stuff. That's right. Or a cameo from Joe at Bloody Good Horror.
That's true. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't think of that. Mouth stuff. I mean, honestly, I would go for mouth stuff over your cameo for me. Not hand stuff.
I mean, not year round with the mouth stuff?
Was it last week we talked about hand stuff? And then in this movie, we got hand stuff, right? It's
I think it was What Are You Too Old For? And you said hand jobs.
Hand stuff. Yeah.
Guys, how did we not talk about that sequence?
That's true. That I totally.
HJ? Yeah.
I mean, that was.
Oh yeah, I made a joke about
like
a psychotic standing dry HJ. It's real hot.
Like
in public.
Open like entryway or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a phone booth, maybe. It was very.
I was like a corner of the bar.
It was some real serial killer shit on both of their parts. Not just her for doing it, but the fact that he could perform under any of those circumstances is pretty incredible, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Men are disgusting. Like we honestly, like
100%.
If like we're at a bar and a woman said like, yeah, but you got to do it in the middle of the Target checkout line, we'd be like, sure, yeah, as long as you touch
whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I need Oreos anyway. All right. What old technology do you miss? I mean, I talk about CD-ROMs weekly, so
Dude, I miss renting movies like at a physical place so bad. Like, I just want to go pick up. I hate. There's too many choices. I can't choose.
I do miss, like, I don't know why, but I do miss like getting Netflix in the mail. Like, I don't know, there was something very exciting about like getting those envelopes.
It's a similar thing, right? About just like, well, here's the movie I got, so I'm gonna watch this. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
so I'm gonna watch this, and if it's awful, I'm still gonna watch it.
Netflix did feel. It's funny how magical Netflix in the beginning felt with the mailing and stuff. Although, man, it depends on your mailing situation, right? I was in an apartment and I had one of those like thin, narrow box style mailboxes, and this asshole, there was a slot that was not big enough for a DVD, and he would cram it through. It would end up in a million pieces. Like, finally, Netflix was like, dude, you cannot report another one of these broken. And I had to put a note being like, you psycho, will you please open this up and put it inside?
Wow.
All right, we got two more here. Fancy a hunky boy?
Depends on my mood, I guess. You know.
I don't care for your hunky boys. Or do I? Last but not least, better horror video game movie adaptation: Silent Hill or Resident Evil?
Resident
Evil, right? Like,
yeah.
I feel like the Silent Hill movie is scarier.
The first Silent Hill movie, the first Silent Hill movie is decent. Yeah.
If it's just the first ones, definitely.
The first Silent Hill movie does have Pyramid Head showing up out of nowhere with no explanation and completely desquamming that lady. So that I think that's pretty good. Remember, I don't even remember it was a lady. It was just a person, right? Skin off, and then threw it at the door. Remember, they're like running into a church, and he throws the door and it like slaps against. I mean, like that's pretty good.
It left an impression. I mean, you could also probably recite half of the dialogue from Resident Evil.
That rivals almost anything in a Resident Evil movie, though, if I'm being honest.
I feel like aesthetically Silent Hill, but if you're just looking to sort of have fun, Resident Evil.
But you could pop in any of those Resident Evil movies and just enjoy how bad they are, whereas like the second Silent Hill movie was just awful and not in a fun way.
Is there anything else on that list? Have any other horror video games been turned into film? I feel like no. Right?
Well, was it one-offs, but Doom. I mean, Mortal Kombat.
Wasn't that like
Dragon Ball Z?
Not a horror video game.
Tekken.
Doom, I will grant you.
Yeah.
Ube Boll, wasn't that like his thing for a while?
House
He was
of the
just doing
Dead.
nothing.
He did like a million of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess I wasn't thinking of those as like horror games necessarily.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Well, you had to be more specific, John, or I can't read your mind. Okay.
that's what I said. Horror. Never mind. Just move on.
That's it. We're done. Those are the questions.
All right, well,
I would call
glad
Doom.
we resolved
I
that.
would call Mortal Kombat a horror video game, John. And people rip people's
Yeah,
spines
John.
out.
I mean, I do love me
Whatever.
some Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
It's a
right.
fighting game, but whatever. Okay. Because someone gets their spine ripped out, you guys start lumping all these things together, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen Scorpion? He's scary without his mask on.
Goro is
Goro, yeah, that's what I was
scary.
gonna say, yeah.
Motherfucker's got 4 arms, John.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
that's 2 more arms than most people.
Yeah, what's that like game Joe might know? The Friday at Freddy's, or what's the
Five
Freddy-
Nights.
Oh,
Five
Five
Nights,
Nights at Freddy's?
They're making
Yeah,
a
yeah.
movie. They're making a movie out of that right
That's I was gonna say that's a horror video game. Like
Yeah.
that's the game just exists to like scare you. That's basically
Straight
a horror
up.
video.
now. Yes. There's a new Blair Witch game out too recently. I haven't played it, but I hear it's pretty good. Anyway, we don't know what we're doing next week. I guess we got a few more weeks here. Women in Horror Month. Don't forget all proceeds from our store this month are going to Rain. Go to shirts.bloodygoodhorror.com. Really quickly, Cece, there's a new issue of Grimm magazine out, right? With some amazing artwork by yourself.
Yes, there is a new issue of Grimm, and I did the cover artwork, which I'm very excited about. But this issue covers the terrors of motherhood, and you can find it at anatomyofascream.com. So you can either download a free PDF version, or you can buy a print version and get the artwork for yourself.
Yeah, it's really cool. That's, of course, Grimm is curated by Valeska, who's been on the show
Mhm.
before. And I think that's a really cool thing they do, giving the digital version away so you can check it out. And if you like it, like support some like independent writers and artists and stuff. So
Yeah, I mean the writing is phenomenal, so it's always a great issue.
Caitlin, what do you got for me this week?
Not a lot. We
I wa-
covered Class Action Park on Thor's Hour of Thunder this past week, and Elizabeth was on, and as well as Adam and me and Danny and lots of other bloody good horror folks. But that movie is wild. The documentary,
So
I
nutty.
watched that documentary with her. It is now one of my all-time favorite documentaries. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
I watched it 3 times last week.
Yeah.
I never rewatch stuff like that for Thor's just because usually we watch kind of stupid stuff, but I was just hooked.
Joe,
But,
you need to see this as a person who's lived in New Jersey. It's about that
Yeah.
the water park where like people
What's
died.
this?
Class
Class
Action
Action
Park.
Park.
Yeah, I've watched it.
It's
I
so
never
good.
went there. My brother used to have his senior trip there, or
Yes.
his like high school trip every year.
That's awesome.
Crazy. I mean
Oh, yeah.
that documentary was wild.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
actually
well-
so. When they reopened, that's where the wife and I had our baby moon at the like the resort that they have there now.
That's
Now-
amazing, dude.
Well, yeah, it was Josh, his hometown pick for the show. We've been doing hometown movies, and he grew up in Vernon, which is this
Oh my
town where
God.
Action Park is. So, yeah, he had lots of fun stories. But no, it was a fun episode.
Get
Love
some
it.
kick-ass apple picking up there. That was always our pumpkin area. There's I
Apple
need to talk
picking
to Josh
sounds
about this because
nightmare.
there's like a farm there. The most amazing apple cider donuts you will ever have in your life, and they do like a fish fry. It's wonderful.
Joe, people
I'm
on
gonna
Slack have
talk to
made me
Josh.
aware that not everyone knows what an apple cider donut is. Apparently, it's like kind of regional.
Oh man.
We have him here.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah,
a lot
I
of
was
there were
gonna say, we get 'em-
some southern places that people did not seem to know what that was.
Yeah, I guess like if you don't have
apples.
like apple
Fresh
orchards,
apples, yeah.
can't really. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, you can check out Thor's Hour of Thunder on podcast platforms. You can check out Grimm Magazine by Googling it. I'm sure there's a website out there somewhere. And-
Anatomyofascream.com.
Yes, you said it. Thank you. And don't forget to go to shirts.bloodygoodhorror.com and help support a really good cause during Women in Horror Month. That's going to do it. Stay tuned. We'll talk to you next week.
See you.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.